A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. On Saturday, October 18th, 2025, millions of Americans took to the streets in an unprecedented nationwide day of dissent, marking the second major No Kings protest against President Donald Trump's controversial second-term policies. Demonstrators mobilized in over 2,600 locations across all 50 states, making this event one of the largest single-day mass demonstrations in recent U.S. history. This mobilization comes as the country grapples with significant concerns regarding the trajectory of its democracy, with many viewing the current administration's actions as a direct threat to American values. The protests were sparked by a coalition of over 200 groups, including Indivisible and the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and were fundamentally a response to aggressive policy actions taken by the Trump administration in recent months. Among the most contentious issues was the deployment of federal forces, including National Guard troops, into cities like Los Angeles and Chicago to enforce administration policies, often against the wishes of local governments. Protesters expressed their fears about the military presence in their cities, with demonstrators like Haley Wingard, dressed as the Statue of Liberty, voicing her concerns about the military's role in Portland, her hometown. The protest also focused on the administration's sweeping immigration crackdown and the controversial tactics employed by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agency. Signs calling for the abolition of ICE were prevalent, and Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson publicly condemned the administration's actions, stating, "We will not bend, we will not bow, we will not cower, we will not submit." Adding to the urgency of the protests was the ongoing government shutdown, which was nearing the end of its third week on the day of the demonstrations. Protesters linked the shutdown impasse to a broader theme of executive power overriding legislative authority, as they rallied against what they viewed as an increasingly authoritarian regime. The October 18th protests represented a statistically significant display of public opposition, reflecting a rising trend of anti-administration mobilization that has been observed since the beginning of the year. According to estimates, nearly 7 million demonstrators participated across small towns and major cities, surpassing the turnout of the first No Kings protests held in June. Deirdre Schiffling, Chief Political and Advocacy Officer for the ACLU, stated, "Today, millions of people showed that we, the people, will not be silenced." The reaction to the protests was starkly partisan, with President Trump, who spent the day at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, attempting to downplay the movement's significance. In an interview with Fox Business, he remarked, "They say they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king. I'm a man with great common sense, a smart person." However, he also posted a series of AI-generated videos on his Truth Social platform that depicted him in a royal, king-like posture, seemingly mocking the central theme of the protests. Republican leaders in Congress responded to the protests by framing them in negative terms, labeling them as Hate America rallies and suggesting they were catering to a terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. This rhetoric served to further divide an already polarized political landscape in Washington. In contrast, Democratic leaders embraced the protests as an essential exercise of constitutional rights. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries emphasized the importance of dissent against what he termed an out-of-control administration, while Senator Bernie Sanders warned that the American experiment is in danger under the current regime. Political analysts viewed the October 18th mobilization as a significant indicator of a revitalized opposition movement, particularly after a period where Democrats struggled to effectively counter the Republican-controlled White House and Congress. Dana Fisher, a professor at American University, noted that the protests served to create a sense of collective identity among those feeling anxious due to the administration's policies. While the protests may not immediately result in policy changes, they play a crucial role in unifying the opposition base and providing momentum for future political engagement. Ezra Levin, co-founder of Indivisible, emphasized the importance of the massive turnout as a necessary show of force against creeping authoritarianism. "The worst thing the Democrats could do right now is surrender," he asserted. For many participants, the rallies provided a sense of community and validation, particularly in states where dissent against the administration is less common. Despite scattered reports of violence and arrests in certain areas, organizers characterized the protests as overwhelmingly peaceful, with significant turnouts in cities like New York, where over 350,000 people gathered without any arrests. As millions of Americans marched across the country, chanting slogans like, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go." The October 18th protests highlighted a growing discontent with the current administration and a commitment among citizens to resist perceived threats to democracy. The movement's message was clear: the American people will not stand idly by as their rights are challenged, and they will continue to fight for a government that represents their values and upholds the principles of democracy. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.